And we are live. What's going on, everybody? I am Adam. This is Highly Articulated, and we are going to be talking about GI Joe classified series specifically today. And I think this is on a loop, so let me get rid of the music. All right, there we go. That's sorted. Ironically, I will want it looped at the end, so why don't I just go ahead and change that now, so that I don't have to fix it at the end. All right, we're going to talk about GI Joes. We're going to talk about the GI Joe classified series. We are going to talk about the fact that we're effectively getting 6 months of Joes packed into, 1 year of GI Joe classified releases packed into 6 months, give or take. Chris on the Full Force podcast talked to Lenny and Emily recently. If you haven't seen that, check it out. I will add the link in the description down below. But effectively what they said was they had 2 options. The options were scrap all the figures that didn't fit into the release schedule, or release them all on a very expedited time frame, get all the figures out, just get everything to market, and just, you know, pump out wave after wave after wave. They chose the latter, which is why we've seen so many name-only reveals, followed very shortly by digital renders, followed very shortly by physical releases and pre-orders, followed by delivery of the figures. Since, and I could be wrong, and feel free to correct me in the comments, because I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember when we got the Falcon cover girl, like that wave. I think that was the last wave before the wave that we've got, or before the figures that we've gotten post Yo Joe June. But the list of figures that we've gotten since Yo Joe June is kind of bonkers, and I think I grabbed them all and put them on my desk. And it's a lot of figures. We're also going to talk a little bit about what's still coming for the end of the year, that we sort of know is coming for the end of the year. And we're going to talk a little bit about what may also be coming before the end of the year, or at the very least will be up for pre-order, or will be revealed, or what have you. So let's get right into it. Before that, let me check in the comments, see what's going on. Ray Pass says, love the title. Star is here as well. What's going on, Star? Kayla says, smack that like button. Please do. More on that towards the end of the video. Cobweb Collector is here. Larry Reed's hanging out. What's going on, Larry? Good to see you. Star says, pushing a schedule like that generally raises issues of QC, just like the ones we've been seeing and hearing about. Well, that may be the case, and I kind of wonder. I have noticed a few things. I'm probably not as critical. I'm probably not as nitpicky as some people are. My nitpicks tend to be things like, I wish Wolf Spider got released with an unmasked head, rather than, you know, a figure comes with, I'm trying to think of an example because I know that I had one recently. Well, here, this is a good example. Let me see if this will show up. If I can. It's not going to show up well just because of the sort of definition in the camera. But a figure that we got recently, Snow Serpent, if you look at his knee joint, when the knee joint is bent, you are not going to see it. But it's a little untidy. Like I don't know what causes, you know, what's on there. It looks like there's a little bit of, not damage, but like it doesn't look like the plastic cured properly or something. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I have it on both of my Snow Serpents. I have it on my Snow Job as well. So I think it may be related to the mold or to the plastic or to sort of how thick that figure is. Maybe it's too much plastic for how long they allow it to cure. I don't know, but Star, I think you may have a little bit of a point, unfortunately, that in the rush to get all this stuff out, are we seeing a little bit of lack of quality? Um, it's been noted that there was a little bit of a drop off in quality in the figures in the last couple waves. That Falcon Cover Girl wave, I think, was the worst of it. They seem to have recovered a little bit. There does seem to be, though, despite it sort of coming back up a little bit, there does still seem to be a little bit of, um, where the figures were like 10 out of 10 before. They're like an 8 or a 9, depending on the figure now. That Falcon was like a 6. Sorry, somebody's got to be the worst figure in the line. That Falcon was a 6, but we haven't typically seen anything quite as bad as Falcon. And I think they bounced back pretty well with the figures after that. So, Star, I'd like to know, why are they pushing the numbers like this? What's the rush? So that's just it. There was basically so in a nutshell, I strongly recommend you watch Chris's interview with Lenny and Emily, where they discuss it in a little bit better detail, a little bit more detail. But effectively, the reason is, during the pandemic, certain things just didn't work out. Timeframes didn't work out. Things got delayed. Things got pushed back, so on and so forth. So all the figures that we've gotten sort of in this lump of figures, like in this very condensed time frame, this very like I said, expedited time frame, where we're getting, we were sort of looking at, every 3 months to get a wave, and now it feels like we're getting a new figure every couple of weeks, or a wave every month, kind of thing. It was effectively that they had all the product designed, they had all the tooling done, they had the engineering done, they had the packaging all sorted out, everything was done. And it came down to, do we want to release more figures than we sort of scheduled for within that time frame, or do we want to effectively cut out 1 or 2 waves? Do we want to abandon those waves, and we may never be able to come back, because the machine just keeps going, right? Like the cycle of developing the new figures, and the engineering and the molds, and the queue at the factory is lined up. The next thing gets in, they just keep going. They just keep going. So they said, do you want us to axe a couple of the releases and just abandon them, or do we just keep going? Do we just sort of push them, and do we move up the time frame to sort of catch up? The decision that was made by, and I don't know if this is true of all of the Hasbro teams, but specifically the GI Joe brand team, decided that what they wanted to do was put out all the figures and kind of let the consumer decide, right? I say this all the time. You don't have to buy everything, right? And this is a great time to be choosy, because I think, well, we'll get to that. There's a lot of figures that I didn't buy because the expedited time frame, it just doesn't fit the budget. It kind of forced my hand, and in a weird way, I'm a little bit relieved. As soon as you pass on the first figure, it's that much easier to pass on the next figure. But it's not so much that there was a rush, Star. It was that it's either you do it now, or it kind of just goes by the wayside. So that was basically it. And so the decision was made to produce everything that they had planned. And what they've effectively said is that by the end of 2023, they will be caught up to the release schedule. So 2024, in theory, should be more of a regular release schedule. We should see figures sort of at a pace that we're more accustomed to, that it's a little bit easier on collectors. So I think that's good news. And like I said, you don't have to buy everything. So hopefully everybody was able to get everything that they wanted. But hopefully nobody's sort of been impacted in such a way that like they can't continue to collect classified because of this release schedule. I haven't so far. I haven't spoken to anybody that's basically said that that they couldn't keep up and that they're out or whatever. What I have heard a lot of people say is they're getting one where they might have gotten two or three or four if they're troop building or something like that. Right? They're prioritizing getting one of everything over getting multiples of certain things. I'm kind of in that boat in the sense that I had already decided that I wasn't doing Python Patrol. I'd already decided I wasn't doing Tiger Force. Um, and so there's some figures that I just won't get. Like I didn't get Copperhead. I have no connection to that character. The figure looks great in the classified line. Don't get me wrong. If you love Copperhead, you don't need to sort of message me and let me know. It just doesn't interest me. That figure just doesn't do anything for me, so I don't need it. And then, on top of that, when they do the Python Patrol one, it's just another figure that I don't need, which is good news because it means that I can put that money towards, another Eel or another Range Viper or another Crimson Viper or something like that. So, let's see. Ray Paz, they did promise it will be back to normal schedule after this. It was a good interview. It was a very good interview. It was. It really was. And it was a lot of the interview was to do with sort of release schedule and some of the logistics, some of the the inside baseball stuff. It didn't feel like they talked about as much. They didn't talk about the toys specifically as much as they did the release schedule and sort of where they were at with everything. But it was a very, very good interview, and Chris is going to do another one. I think he's intending for the second one to be sometime in November. So Larry Reed says Shipwreck Wave was June. Okay, so that's the wave that we started with. Okay, that's what I wrote down. That was sort of where I started writing down my list, and it's like it's a whole page of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. Was it the right decision? I don't know that we will ever know. I think, like I said, for me, it wasn't even so much this sort of moment in time because, some of these things we got pre-orders for a little bit earlier, but now it's the delivery schedule, which is sort of catching up. Now, I say this all the time. I am a very, very strong believer in like paying your pre-orders up front. I order things when they get pre-ordered if I can afford them at the time. I do not assume that if I can't afford it now, I will be somehow financially better off in a couple months when they release the figures. I assume that if I can afford it now, great, pay for it, get it done, get it dusted, and then when it shows up on my doorstep, there's no feeling that I can't afford it and that it's somehow taken away from my grocery bill or my mortgage or something like that. But that's just how I do it. You collect how you want. Ray says I want everything. Fair enough, and there's lots of people like that. There's certainly a lot of people that are sort of in that same boat, and I can sympathize. So Star says Hasbro can push all they want. It seems like they're not considering the finances of the customer base. Buyers' finance reserves are finite for most. They're only getting so many regardless. I have spoken about this many, many, many times, going back quite a ways now. It really goes back to when there was sort of a bit of a price jump, and we saw this across multiple lines where everything went up a couple bucks. It wasn't that long ago that GI Joe classified releases were $19.99 in the US. They're now $24.99. They were $29.99 in Canada. They're now $34.99. They were as high as $44.99 in Canada through Toys R Us. And that caused a lot of people to kind of reconsider. What I've said before, and I will say this all the time, is my feeling is that these are all want-based items, right? These are action figures, these are toys. Nobody needs any of this stuff, okay? Nobody needs any of this. It's all want-based. Do not buy toys beyond your means, beyond the budget that sort of will allow. If you can't get the latest GI Joe classified figure, don't buy it. If you can't get the latest wave of Mythic Legions, don't buy them. The long-term ramifications of buying things that you can't afford is just something that they are not worth it, right? These are fun, but they are not worth it. I said this before. Hasbro raising prices, or whoever raising prices, doesn't mean that I'm just gonna keep buying the same amount. It means that I'll buy less things, because the budget, like you said, Stark, does not change. I don't have more money just because Hasbro raises the prices. So if I bought, 3 Alley Vipers at 20 bucks, it doesn't mean that I'm going to buy 3 at 25. It means that I'm probably going to buy 2 at 25. So in the end, 3 at 20 is 60 bucks, 2 at 50 is 50 bucks. They're actually losing money because I just don't see that it's worth it. I don't know that the math is mathing on their end. But it is what it is. If the figures cost more to make and to ship and to get in collectors' hands, that's just the reality. But as you say, Star, I don't think it's that they're not considering that. I think it's just that's the current reality. Things have gotten more expensive in the last couple of years. I don't think they had a choice. Ray Paz, the vamp will be at the end of the month. That's the only big thing I think they can do. I think we will get the vamp for the 1027 Hasbro event. I've said this a million times. Like, the vamp is my favorite vehicle. I'm planning to get 2. Full disclosure, I have a very, very, very good idea of how much it's going to cost and sort of what it's going to look like, and all that kind of stuff. And so I've admittedly kind of not bought certain things knowing that that's coming. So, it is what it is. But Ray Paz says, yeah, I want to pay it and have it be out of the way. Exactly. That's right where I'm at. Star says, just my minor opinion, but I'd rather see them take the resources and time they have and cut the numbers in half. Put more time, effort, and money into creating a few great ones rather than a large number. I don't think that's how the math works, though, Star. I don't think that them releasing less figures would mean better quality. The issue is that they had already done all that work beforehand. So, like I said, they're just the machine keeps going. The design team keeps going. They didn't design faster. The release schedule got slowed down. The release schedule is getting pushed up. So it's not as simple as what I think you might be suggesting. I think that it was either you've done all this work. Do you want to release these figures and sort of make some of that money back, or make nothing for that work? Is sort of the way that equation kind of worked out, I think, unfortunately. And I think, or at least I hope that some of the QC issues are related to the production schedule more so than they're related to the design schedule, if that makes sense. Like, I think there's things that they want to improve. There's things that they need to do better, that they want to do better. But in this sort of current push that we've got, I think it was just a matter of it wasn't quite feasible. And when you're pushing out more product more often, it's a little bit harder to kind of course correct during the process, because it's full on for a very short amount of time. I'm hoping when they get back to a regular release schedule, they can address QC issues a little bit better, a little bit more effectively, so on and so forth. So Robert's Infinite Realms is saying the same thing. With the QC issues, especially lately, I think they need to slow down. We get a wave that is okay, and then a wave with loose torsos and arms falling off. I haven't had as many issues as some other people have. Now, whether that is me being less particular, less picky, uh, the Firefly, I think there's a design issue with Firefly in terms of the waist. I haven't had any figures that had arms fall off. I think well we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that, and I'll sort of mention a couple things. So yeah, Larry says when I started, Star Wars Black Series was 25. Now they're 50. The standard Black Series isn't 50 though. The standard Black Series is what 30, well, depends where you get it, 35 to 38. But there's a lot more of them that are at 50, I think. So to your point, I think there are a lot more releases even in the Black Series where they're kind of pushing that idea of deluxe to cover things that maybe are a little bit less than deluxe. But I'm just going to try to catch up on the chat here a little bit. And I'm not sure. I'm getting sort of glitchy on my end, but we're yeah, I'm getting a bad signal here. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix this. Okay, fixing. That should be better. Let's hope that that's better. Okay, let me know in the chat. I'm going to skip a few to kind of catch up. Bent weapons. Bent weapons is a big one. And in that video, they actually addressed that. Lenny said that it's something that absolutely frustrates him as well. He said that well, I got one right here. The eels, like, that's not how a spear. That's the better of the two. I got two eels, and that's the better of the two. The other one could shoot around a corner. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. You can heat them up and straighten them out. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is things like loose torsos, things like weird Team America World Police faces. Those things are bigger issues for me, right? But Falcon one is Falcon is unique, and I know why it's so bad, but it's not information that I gathered on my own. I'm not at liberty to share that. One day, I'm sure that will all come to light. But Falcon sucks, and it's a whole big fiasco. There are multiple parts to it. And it's unfortunate. Like I said, Falcon is one of my favorite characters, and I really wanted that to be one of my favorite figures, and it is just the worst figure in the line. But knowing all the problems, about sort of that particular figure, I'm actually surprised it's as good as it is, if that makes sense. It was a whole thing, but anyway. Let me see. Oz is here. What's going on, Oz? Larry says my eel does the same. Yeah, I think every eel does the same. It's unfortunate, but AI says, I assume you mean Falcon. Worst sculpt in the line, hands down. Yes, it absolutely is. And there's a reason. It wasn't without sort of speaking out of turn. They knew it wasn't as good as they wanted it to be. But there were some issues that didn't allow them to sort of get it to where they wanted it to be, if that makes sense. I think that whole wave, though, has pretty bad printing on the faces, and I think that sort of exacerbates the bad sculpt. I don't even think it's a terrible sculpt. I think it's a lack of a good sculpt with a bad deco, if that makes sense. Like I think it was like mediocre and bad layered together to create the worst figure in the line. I really hope that they can. I really hope that we will get, you know, another Falcon that will sort of correct that. Now whether we get like a Night Force one where they get an alternate head, which I'll buy that figure just for an alternate head, or a Tiger Force, or create a subline just to correct that figure. I don't even care. I would only be buying it for that, for a better head sculpt. And then I just use the figure as fodder. But anyway. Okay, let's go through the list of the figures that we've gotten, and I'm gonna try to do this. I think I've got them all on my desk. Let me know if I've forgotten one, because there's a good chance I did, because there's so many. I wore this shirt on purpose because basically we just got this. We just got everything all at once. Okay, so we got the wave that included Shipwreck and Torpedo and Bazooka. This is since June, right? This is within the last, what is that, 60 days or whatever. And we got, who else was in that wave? Who else was in that wave? Oh, I didn't grab Rock and Roll. And I didn't grab Scrap Iron. We got Nunchuck. Some of us got Eels. Not everybody got Eels. Sorry. Range Viper, again, not everybody got Range Viper, but I get that. That's a whole other show. We got Televipers. We got Steel Core Troopers. We got Desert Commando Snake Eyes. We got Firefly version 2 with his loose waist. We got Snow Job, which is a bonkers figure. Such a good figure. We got the Cobra Valkyrie 2-pack, which I love. I bought multiples of. We got the Crimson Viper. We got the Snow Serpent, which, again, just an absolutely bonkers figure. I so many times said I didn't need winter figures, and here I am with those figures thinking, like, those are two of the better figures that we've gotten so far. I haven't even opened these ones yet. We got Tunnel Rat. We got Big Ben. We got Grunt. We got Lowlight. Are there others? Is there, like, that's what are we looking at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, right? It's like, that's a lot of figures. Keep in mind that of those, the Valkyries are army builders, the Televipers are army builders, Crimson Viper is an army builder, Range Viper is an army builder, Eels are army builder, Snow Serpent's army builder. So 20 releases, realistically, for a lot of people, 25, 30 figures. That's assuming you're just in classified too, right? Then on top of that, right, we're still not done for the year. There's still more stuff that needs to be released. First and foremost, His Tank. Thankfully, if you ordered His Tank, that's prepaid. It's going to show up. It's going to be Christmas morning. You're just going to sort of bask in the glow. It's going to be like in Tarantino movie when they open the case, right? When they open the case, why can't I think? Why does my brain just stop working as soon as I start doing this? But you know what I'm talking about, right? The case opens up, the glow of that his tank is gonna hit us when we open that. Tripwire, I got an email from Hasbro that says Tripwire is about to ship. Chuckles should ship very very soon. I passed on figures that other people are gonna get. I passed on the Crimson Strike Team. I passed on Python Patrol and Tiger Force stuff. So all that stuff's coming. If you ordered that stuff, thank you, Robert's Infinite Realms. Pulp Fiction. Why could I not think of that name? Pulp Fiction. Yeah, when they open the case, right, and it glows, you never know what's in the case. But that's not relevant. Um, and Big Bad Toy Store has Torch in stock already, so that's the next wave of figures. I'm kind of thinking, kind of leaning towards the idea that we will get that wave of figures within the next month or so. On top of that, as I said, 1027 is coming up. I think at the very least we're going to get one or two pre-orders out of 1027. Um, the show in London is coming up, I believe, in October as well, or very early November. So we could get one or two releases there. At the very least, I think we'll get name reveals. On top of the things that could get released, we've got name reveals. We could get digital renders. Like, there's just so much stuff coming, and I don't think that it's, like I said, I don't think it's done for the year. I think we're still gonna see one, maybe even two waves released this year. I think it's entirely possible with the rate that they've been pumping out figures. I'm looking at my shelves. I'll tell you this. I'm looking at my display shelves, and I've already you can't see, like, you can see what's on my display shelves, but you can't see what, like, so I've got the white that you see sort of at the bottom of the screen there. Actually, I can show you what I'm talking about. The white at the bottom is some cupboards, and then below that I have bins. One of those bins. Now I got to rearrange this. Okay, hold on. One of those bins I've specifically emptied out because what I'm going to do is transfer a lot of the troop builders. These guys here are all Cobra troops, and these are all like multiples of Cobra troops. So what I'm thinking is, just like I've got for Cobra on this shelf, one of each character, this shelf will be like one of each trooper, and then I can condense that down. The extras will go in the bin down below. This shelf right here will be the his tank. But where does the stuff on this shelf go? I don't know. It may go in this shelf where the Sky Striker is. It's I got real problems, guys. I got real space issue problems here. So I'm constantly trying to address those problems in order to to accept delivery of more of these figures, because there's still a lot of good stuff coming, and there's still a lot of stuff that I really really want. Can't wait to get on my shelves. So what say you guys about the release schedule? What do you guys think? Where are we at? Is it too much? Do you kind of understand why Hasbro sort of made the decision to just keep rolling, and to just release the figures and hope for the best? I think there will be a weird thing where people, like, if you miss something, you'll be able to kind of catch up as they slow the deliveries down. Because I think what's going to happen is people are going to pass on figures as far as deliveries now, but a lot of that stuff will be available a little bit longer, right? If they manufacture in the same quantities, you'll theoretically have a little bit bigger window to actually pick up the figures if you need to go that route. Hopefully, I mean, I hope that nobody's missing out on figures because of Hasbro's release schedule, but I'm curious what other people think as well. With Star Wars falling off the beam lately, do you guys think that perhaps Hasbro is using GI Joe to cover that dead zone for sales? No, I don't. Do I think do I think that Hasbro is thankful that GI Joe is kind of picking up the slack there? Yes. Do I think it's by design? No, not really. And the reason that I say that is because each brand has its own design team. Each brand is working with a different IP. As much as like I think like, well, why don't the brand teams work together or whatever? They just don't. Part of that is that, from my understanding, there are agreements. So Star Wars, for example, right? It's Lucasfilm. So there's a legal sort of agreement that what happens on the Star Wars line effectively won't be shared with anybody else. Um, which is sort of inversely true as well. The classified figures being as good as they are, I bet the Black Series guys are like, can we just ask them for a couple little things, engineering wise, sculpting wise. But that's just the way that it works. Within Hasbro, each of the IPs is kind of compartmentalized. They might have lunch together, but the engineers aren't visiting each other's office and kind of sharing secrets or design updates or anything like that, to the best of my knowledge. Now that could be completely false, but that's the information that has basically been passed on to me. Admittedly, in a lot of cases, like second or third hand or whatever. It's not Lenny telling me that. It's not. I don't know anyone from the Star Wars team. I can't just say them by name, um, but yeah, effectively, it's not. They're just thankful for that. You also have to remember this, right? And we as collectors are very myopic, and we have perspective bias like you wouldn't believe. Hasbro makes billions of dollars, but it's not on action figures. Okay, it's on dolls. It's on Monopoly. It's on Connect Four. It's on Hungry Hungry Hippos. They probably sell. There's probably more profit in Hungry Hungry Hippos every year than there is in classified Black Series, Marvel Legends, and whatever Power Rangers combined. The action figure stuff is a drop in the bucket. It does not factor into Hasbro's bottom line in the way that we think it does. The Snake Eyes movie has probably more financial impact than anything else in the action figure stuff in that year, and probably impacted things after the fact too. But we get this idea that Hasbro is the brands that we talk about, but Hasbro is so much bigger than that, and this stuff is like incidental to them, which is why the brand teams do the best job that they can, but at the end of the day, their hands are tied, right? The corporate structure and the bureaucracy and all that kind of stuff just means that they can't just make cool stuff just because they want to. So um let's see. The Star Wars stuff. Look, they're still. I'm not buying Star Wars stuff, and there's not a lot of people that I know that buy Star Wars stuff, but I do know that there are a lot of people still buying Star Wars stuff. They're just not people that I necessarily talk to, because that's not that's not the bubble that my collecting lives in, right? If that makes sense. It's like Transformers. I think, oh, who buys Transformers? And then Larry's like, I bought everything. Or Tristan, when he's on here, is like, yeah, I bought all that stuff. Ken Poe is buying Transformer stuff. So it's perspective bias. I think that most of these lines are doing okay. I think there's a lot of grumbling about Star Wars, and I think a lot of the grumbling about Star Wars is justified. That being said, I think Star Wars is still pretty healthy overall, even if fandom doesn't necessarily echo that sentiment, or at least action figure fandom doesn't echo that sentiment. That's my 2 cents. That's my uneducated, ignorant perspective on Star Wars toys and what's going on there. But let me see if I can catch up. Robert's Infinite Realms. I think they're seeing Joe's doing fairly well, and they are dumping resources into it. Joe took Marvel Legends spot at SDCC. That I do think. So I do like, and I don't know what you mean by like took their spot, but I think you're right. I think Hasbro is allocating resources to the brand that is financially the most profitable. And I think of of the 6-inch action figure lines, I think GI Joe Classified is blowing the other ones out of the water. And I don't think that the the corporates expected that, which is why the first couple waves came a little bit slow. Production numbers weren't where they should have been, so on and so forth. I think they know what they have with GI Joe Classified now, and we're seeing the pattern repeat over and over, right? We're seeing classified figures sell out. We're seeing the HasLabs back and do very, very well. We're seeing overall a very, very positive reaction to the GI Joe Classified line, and I think Hasbro can't really deny that. There's not really any way to say that that's not accurate or not true. Objectively, I think Classified is probably doing the best of the 6-inch action figure lines at Hasbro. So I do think that in that respect, resources are sort of pushed towards that. On that note, I do think Hasbro thought that something else might do better and may have moved GI Joe out of a factory that it was in, and may have reconsidered that, and those figures GI Joe Classified may have moved back into that factory, or if not, it should have. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. That might be related to Falcon. Might not be. It might be. It might. That might be rumor, conjecture. I don't know. It's not any. Anyway, moving on. Star. Do you guys think that Marvel Legends is still Hasbro's top seller? No. AI. I've said it before, the same team that works on Black Series and Indie aren't innovating. It is crazy that there is such a vast difference in engineering from lines that come from the same company. That goes to the point of what I was saying before. You might have commented that sort of before I sort of went on that rant. I have heard, and I don't know that this is true or not, I've heard that part of the agreement for Black Series is that that basically they won't let them do better articulation, and I don't know if that's because that generates sort of more money for the IP to go with like SH figure, like Bandai to do SH figure arts, Tamashii Nations, or Hot Toys or whatever. Like I don't know if it's intentional, like if Black Series are intentionally made not as well as they could be, because that might hurt the licensing. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think. That's literally the only reason that I can think that that would be the case. Um, um, there's a lot of comments in there about original IPs versus licensing, and I think that played a part for sure. Star Wars, I think I don't know if anybody mentioned it in here, and if you did and I've missed it, forgive me. Star Wars is really funny because when we were younger, when we were kids, even up to Force Awakens, like the Rey figures came out before Force Awakens did, but they've changed and now they don't release figures ahead, which I think hurts them because I think it kind of screws up release schedules. But um, Star. I can't imagine the president or CEO of Hasbro or the investor board being okay with one branch being subpar compared to the others. I'd think they'd insist that all branches being equally good. No, they want all branches to generate better profit margins. They don't care at all about the IPs. They don't. They just don't. That's the fallacy. Um, you know, there's probably a handful of people that are investors or on the board that know anything about the quality of any of the figures, right? I don't know that any of them cares whether you know, Black Series has double articulated elbow joints or not. Their question will be, is it profitable? Yes or no. They do not care if they are good or bad. That has nothing to do with what they think. Um, like I said, the action figure stuff is a drop in the bucket. If it's not profitable, if it's problematic, they just drop it out of the brand, out of the portfolio. They don't care. Just make more hungry hippos. Just make another version of Monopoly. That's how it works. It the action figure stuff, they don't care. We care way more about it than probably the president of Hasbro does. Um, let's see. I gotta try to catch up. I gotta try to catch up here. Hmm. Star, I'd like to see someone bring out some fresh material to create figures around. Lots of people are doing it. Lots of people are doing it. It's a matter of whether or not they get any traction. It's whether or not there's an audience for them. Um, you know, GI Joe like the problem with a lot of these nostalgia lines is the problem that we're seeing, right? They release a Helix figure, they release a Sharpshooter figure, they release a Glenda figure. I know those are all, you know, women, and you know, the argument of female action figures don't sell or whatever. I want all of those. I'm super excited about all of those. Wolf Spider is an original character, and people are like, "What's this? I don't want this." Every figure was an original figure at some point. It's the nostalgia thing. So some of these nostalgia brands are a little bit hindered by the fact that they're nostalgia brands, I think, and a lot of stubborn people just don't want new stuff. That's fine. I say they're stubborn in jest. You buy what you like, and if you don't want new stuff, you're not going to buy it. I love new IPs. I'm here for new GI Joe figures. But you know, no secret that I absolutely love Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. I'm excited about Armies of Ashmore and the Defenders of Eden stuff. Um, I'm looking forward to the comic book for Meta Travelers and the Legendary Action Figure series. I hope they do a Cyberzoic comic book. I want more lore. I want more IPs. I want more stuff, because I think that's going forward. You know, some of these IPs are kind of die with us middle-aged men. Um, and Ray says, good point. In about an hour, Legendary Kickstarter is done. If you didn't back it or are interested, now's the time. Yes, absolutely. I think it finishes. I want to say that it finishes at 5 p.m. Pacific, so we're about 2 hours away from there. Just go over there. My strong recommendation: just go over there and back it for like $3 for the digital comic. If you don't even need the action figures, $3 for a digital comic. You know, a few bucks just helps and sort of gets you in the door, gets you sort of interested in that. I mean, it doesn't get you interested in that to fund it or donate, but whatever. You get my point, I think. You know, you'll be sort of in the loop. You'll get emails and updates, and I think that's generally where the toy industry is going, right? I think it's generally going in the direction, like it's split, right? It's going in the direction of like more nostalgia and more original. I think there's some middle ground, you know, some of the stuff that you know, like Ramen Toys is doing, where where you're sort of offering new offerings that weren't from vintage lines. That Super 7 Cobra Mothership is another thing, right? That vehicle was never offered, but it was one of those ones where people are always like, "Oh, I wish they'd done this." Now you have the chance. Now you can go out and get that. It hits you in the nostalgia feels in one way, but it's still original in another way. We'll see. Stay tuned for more on that. It's not something that interests me just because of the scale, but JMax77, haven't seen his name before, but hello. Trying to resist those legendary figures, but some sweet designs. Yeah, I don't like that they don't list shipping because I'm in Canada. So I don't like to back Kickstarters where I don't know how much it's actually going to cost to get to my house. So I will wait on those, but I really want Quick Jack. I really want Meld Master. And then I can't remember the name of the guy that has the plague mask, but he's also, another translucent figure. There's some great designs in that line. Great looking figures for sure. Let's see. Sorry, I get behind in the comments, and then I feel like I'm not like interacting with the comments in real time. I'm almost like I'm trying to think about what I was talking about 5 minutes ago because I'm trying to catch up. AI, this is a good point. I've kind of said this too. There's going to be a threshold. There's got to be a critical mass. There are a lot of Kickstarters for new and fresh IPs, but I feel even that is getting oversaturated too much, too fast, and not enough money to go around. Yeah, I mean that's part of the problem, and I think everybody's different. Some collectors are like, I'll get one figure from each line. I'll get one from this Kickstarter, one from this Kickstarter, one from this Kickstarter, one from this Kickstarter. I tend to, well, look at my shelves, right? I say this all the time. I want to have a shelf of figures. In this case, it is a shelf of Baywalk figures, and this is a shelf of Baywalk figures as well. And these ones are all GI Joe, and then these ones are all Marvel Legends. I prefer collections with a little bit more depth. Personally, I tend to lean into IPs in terms of lore and stuff like that. So Kickstarters for me are typically a case where like I'm either all in and I'll get like the whole line, the whole wave or whatever, or I'll back the digital comic book. Legendary, like I said, I backed for the comic book. Cyberzoic, I backed for a couple bucks, hoping they do a comic book, and I'll probably get that. Both of those lines, I'm just not sure what I'm gonna pick up figure wise. The kicker, the kicker for me is if you do a translucent figure. If you do a translucent figure, I'll probably pick that up, especially if it's Kickstarter exclusive, because I'm a sucker for those. I was going through my list of like translucent figures. I've got a few, and I love them. I realize I have a lot of them on pre-order, and I think I'm going to end up with a figure full of translucent, or a shelf full of translucent figures. But I just don't know where I'm going to put it, because I'm not going to put it behind me because it'll just look like an empty shelf. So I'll probably put it, on the left or the right of me so that I can see it, but it's sort of out of view. But anyway, that's a joke. You'd see them. You'd still see them. They're not invisible. They're meant to be, but they're not. Red XO Mac 5. Legendary is another rabbit hole for me. That's the problem with me, is that I'm prone to falling down rabbit holes. So I have to be mindful of that, and I have to be aware of that, and I can't just go all in on these Kickstarters. But Robert's Infinite Realms. I'm a little tired of nostalgia. It's been going for 20 years now. Okay, you guys ruin the cool stuff. New cool stuff. I'm on the fence. I'm 50-50. I love the nostalgia stuff. I still do. I really genuinely still love the nostalgia stuff. I still love getting new GI Joes. The figure that was right at hand when you said that was Nunchuck. And I know that for a lot of people, Nunchuck is like not exactly the most desirable character or the most desirable figure, but he's a really great action figure. And I loved Ninja Force as a kid. And the classified figures are so much better than the vintage figures, objectively speaking. If Chad was here, he would be blowing me up right now, and I get that. He prefers the nostalgia stuff. He prefers the smaller scale for world building and so on and so forth. I get that. Totally understand that. not trying to yuck anybody's yum. I love these new figures. I love the 6-inch scale. I think it offers, better sculpts, better articulation. There's some drawbacks. You're dealing with modern companies. There's a little bit more sort of profit driven decision making, so on and so forth. I get that. I'm not trying to sort of persuade people that I just like force. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to think. Um, but I genuinely love the 6-inch scale. I think it looks great on the shelf. They're fun to play with. The fact that I have so many lines that are now in the same scale that weren't in my childhood is kind of a bonus as well. So Ray Paz, my next get will be Cyberzoic as the Kickstarter comes closer to its end. Yeah, I think that's going to be true for a lot of people. Armored battle dinosaurs. Who knew that we needed that? I didn't think I needed that. Now I'm really struggling with that. Thanos Copter. I was just saying my goal next year is not to jump in a Kickstarter. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's all available at retail after the fact anyway, so I guess on some level it's you don't have to back the Kickstarters. But, yeah. you got me hooked on AWOC. There's a lot of AWOC stuff coming soon, so you're welcome, and I'm sorry. Ray Paz, I think we spoke about this maybe with Brick. This feels like the time in the early 90s where Image was coming out and other comic companies saturated the market and that whole industry suffered. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a weird thing happening right now, and I don't think it's quite the same as the 90s. In the 90s, like Image, as much as people kind of don't realize it, Image came around at a time, or maybe they do, and maybe I just don't hear this sort of aspect being spoken about. Image came around at a time where the like idea of like collecting was people thought they were going to put their kids through college by buying all the variants of the Image number ones. You know what I mean? Fast forward to today, you can't give that stuff away. It's not worth anything at all. So I think we're kind of in that. Yeah, like collecting has sort of come full circle in that respect, where I think a lot of people for the last few years seeing prices go up were buying with the intention of selling for even more. And I think what's going to happen is a lot of these bank accounts and these empty wallets are going to start to sort of fix themselves. And I think it's going to be easy to pick up some of this stuff in a year or two as people realize that they've way overextended themselves financially and can't afford to hold on to this stuff for 5 or 10 or 20 years because they don't have the money. They've spent all their money on these toys and they've run out of space. I genuinely think that the bubble of like buying toys as an investment, if it hasn't burst already and people aren't talking about it, I think it's on the verge. That's my personal opinion as well. That's just sort of looking at how that 90s thing happened. It happened with cards before that too, right? So I don't know. Nunchuck is B-side Kamakura. I think the inverse is true. I think Nunchuck is A-side and Kamakura is the B-side. But Ray Paz, check out Void Rivals. The Transformers first issue was okay. I want to see what they do with the Joes in that Energon universe. Okay. I love comic books. I'm a comic book collector, primarily X-Men. But I've been collecting like the IDW GI Joe. I do the IDW Ninja Turtles, the AWOC comic, obviously. But I like I still like, as much as I think Image is kind of a weird thing, 90s related. I think the fact that they do like creator-led books. There's a book called Isola, Isola, that I thought was phenomenal. It was really well written. The art was fantastic. It had sort of a Studio Ghibli feel to it. And one of the things that I absolutely loved about it is that it's a self-contained universe. So if you're buying that comic book monthly, you only need that comic book monthly. What I resent about Skybound picking up Transformers and GI Joe is a shared universe. I don't want a shared universe. I have no interest in a shared universe. I don't want to have a crossover event where I got to buy 6 issues of Void Rivals, 13 issues of Transformers, a My Little Pony book, a Power Rangers book, and a Spawn book just to know what's going on with Snake Eyes. That, no, nope, not for me. Not a thing that I'm going to do. I will buy GI Joe books that Larry Hama writes, and then if they come up with something else cool, I'd consider it. I've said this before. Paul Aller did a really great series, GI Joe World on Fire, which I think is phenomenal, but it's not even in the same universe. It's like a reimagining of GI Joe, and it's phenomenal. And it didn't do very well. GI Joe fans didn't really take to it. So, Red Exomac 5. There's got to be a way to read Red Exomac 5. I feel like I'm reading it wrong. I'm just going to call you Red 5. Red 5 says, I can't wait to see new AWOC stuff. Stay tuned. It's coming soon. And there's a bunch of good stuff coming. It probably feels like there hasn't been much news as far as new releases for AWOC, and that will be remedied soon. Yes, Ray Paz says, by the way, Punk with Toys will be on with Brick Something tonight. Yes, when we're done here, and I'm going to finish up pretty soon because I feel like I'm just rambling on. When I finish up here, I think Brick goes on at about 4 o'clock Pacific, maybe 4:30. So check out Brick Something's channel. They are going to be doing news today, the needless ephemera we saw. So go check out Brick Something's channel for that. Star says, I think it's gotten to be too much. I find myself missing the early years when I was a kid and all we had were comic books for a quarter and a couple of Micronauts and Star Wars figures. My mantra is I can't have all the things. And part of that is the idea that I prefer to focus on just a few lines for that reason. I find that I'm less anxious about things that I quote unquote miss. I just choose not to buy some things. And I'm not a completionist for any line. AWOC's close. Admittedly, AWOC is close, but I'm just thinking of like there's AWOC figures coming up that I might potentially pass on. And I've said this before, that Gladiator Pale, the Gladiator Atreyu, I might pass on them. I probably won't. In the end, I'll probably end up getting them. But they don't hit the same for me as they do for a lot of people. I really love the accessories that they come with, so I may end up getting them anyway. But regardless. Oz says we're on the Beanie Baby bubble. I think we are. I genuinely think we are. But yeah, as far as you don't have to have everything, right? There's stuff that's cool. This is where I'm at with Cyberzoic, right? It's 1/18 scale. I don't collect anything 1/18 scale. I will very likely not buy any of the Cyberzoic stuff for that reason alone. And I'm okay with that. The sort of the therapy, the therapy session of you don't have to have everything, right? It can't hurt you if you don't let it, right? The idea that like there's tons of cool stuff out there and you can't have it. There's you know, there's people that are smarter than me. There's people that are better looking than me. There's people that are faster than me. They can cook better than me. There's people with more subscribers on their YouTube channels than me. None of you know, you can't let any of that stuff get to you. It's the same thing. It's just like some of these things you can't control. We don't have unlimited budgets. We don't have unlimited space. So pick the stuff that makes you happy and buy that stuff. And when you sort of get that moment where you're like, oh, I wish I could buy this thing, consider consider all the cool stuff that you do have. Go play with your toys, right? Pose a couple, take a picture, start a YouTube channel, start dial building, do something else, right? Just distract yourself from the fact that you can't have everything. There's other stuff. There's other, you know, there's other stuff going on in the world, right? So, Attorney in Ellipse has joined us. What's going on, Attorney in Ellipse? How's it going? Let's see. Let's see. I can't. We're already over an hour, and I'm going to try to wrap it up here. Right past. You're not passing on them. None of us believe you. Okay, full disclosure, I probably won't have to pass on them because they will probably just end up at my doorstep. If I'm being perfectly honest, the so initially I started sort of volunteering my time to sort of help Jason with Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. That relationship may change. I may be more involved with Animal Warriors of the Kingdom soon. Stay tuned for more. That's all I'll say about that. Doomed Customs. I was just enjoying listening, but I will chime in. The toy manufacturers ruined competition collecting by making it impossible to get items. When this bubble bursts, that will be a huge reason. I think you're probably onto something too. I think there's a lot of people that really resent the difficulty of collecting some things. I don't know that that's a new thing though. Like that's where, so I don't necessarily, like, I get the point. I totally understand the sentiment. But hasn't San Diego Comic-Con had exclusives for forever? You know, didn't we see San Diego Comic-Con exclusives or like whatever exclusives in Wizard magazine when we were kids and wish that we could have them? I think what the internet has done has made it so that anything is available for a price, but that price now is just bonkers because of eBay, because of even because of Facebook groups, right? Like the ability to get a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive that is limited to like 100, you can get it, and it's way closer now than it was when you were reading about it, you know, 2 months later in Wizard magazine. So I think what's happened is that it's just the psychology has shifted, right? And this is where my idea of I can't collect all the things really comes from, is that I live in Western Canada. I'm not going to make it to cons. I can't get to PowerCon, Joe Fest, San Diego Comic Con, on and on. Like I can't get to where all these exclusives are available. And so for my whole life, there's been things that I couldn't get. As a kid, I didn't realize that GI Joe mailaways were available in Canada. My parents I don't know if my parents intentionally made me believe this or if I was just somehow under the impression that they weren't available. But mail away GI Joe figures were something that I knew existed, but never dreamed that I would have. And you know, this guy's sitting on my desk next to me right now. A Steel Brigade figure, right? So the internet made me owning a Steel Brigade figure possible. It didn't make it cheap, but it is what it is, right? So, but that's where we're at. Okay, that's sort of the end of the episode. Here's a couple housekeeping things, a couple things that I just wanted to touch on that I wanted to note. You guys are awesome. I do this for you guys that are here in the chat. I have a ton of fun doing this. I wouldn't do this if I didn't. That being said, I need a little bit of help from you guys. I've said this before, and I still feel this way, but I will sort of explain myself. I've never cared about, you know, the followers. You know, those of you that are here watching are what are important to me. That being said, I'm so dang close to 500. And if you know, any of you know, as soon as you get to 500, things change. The sandbox gets bigger. You can do different things. You get more tools, and your channel has the potential to become monetized. Which is, you know, I'm not saying that I'm looking to make money off this channel. I'm just saying I'm so close to to the possibility that a few dollars here or there wouldn't be bad. I will be fully transparent about that. If you can sort of share the video, get the word out that I'm close to 500, that would be, you know, something that I would really appreciate. If I never get to 500, it's not the end of the world. But here's why it's so frustrating. I'm so close, and this is episode 49. For episode 50 of Highly Articulated, I would love to hit 500 subs. If we hit 500 subs, I will do some giveaways. I've got some spare classified things that I can give away. I've got a couple pretty cool AWOC things that I can give away. I will probably actually split it up. I will probably do the GI Joe classified stuff, and then maybe some other stuff. I might find some other stuff to give away, sort of in a highly articulated video. I will give away the AWOC stuff on an AWOC video because it just makes more sense to me that way. But the AWOC stuff that I have to give away, I think I'm going to give away a Blight figure signed by Jason Bienvenu, the creator and the man behind Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. And I will also, I'm reluctant to give it away, but I think it's a really, really cool prize, and I would love somebody else to have it. I don't have enough wall space for all the turnaround shots that I received. So I will also be giving away a turnaround shot, an Animal Warriors of the Kingdom turnaround shot. I don't know which one yet. That's going to be the struggle. I don't know which one I will be willing to part with. But that's, like I said, if I can get to 500, episode 50 will be next week. So if I can get to 500 in the next week, I'll give a bunch of stuff away. I don't give stuff away because I think it's not really my thing. I don't want to just have people subscribe because I'm giving things away. But I love that you guys are here, and I love that you guys are hanging out, and I appreciate you guys. So when I get there, I will give some stuff away. That's my goal. Stay tuned to the channel. I'm doing more stuff. I'm doing more videos. I'm trying to record more stuff. I have more time, you know, late at night when everybody's asleep to edit things. So what I'm doing is actually recording some unboxing stuff, editing it, and then posting it. I'm trying to figure out, you know, the schedule for how that's going to work. Just trying to get, you know, a little bit more content out there. Also trying to get the stack of figures that I need to unbox a little bit smaller, and that just, you know, pushes me to do that. It incentivizes me to sort of have a plan to sort of get through some of that stuff. You saw I still got Joe's unboxed, or Joe's to unbox. One that I haven't recorded yet, but I can't wait to open up is the SH Figure Arts Orange Piccolo. Probably going to be recording that video tonight or tomorrow. The edit might not make it onto the channel for a couple of weeks because I'm sitting on like 5 or 6 videos that I need to edit. But like I said, I do it because you guys are interested, because you guys are supportive and encouraging, and because I'm having fun. I'm having fun with toys, man. And that's the dream. That's the goal. Talking about toys and having fun with toys is what I'm here for. So Carol, did I come in on the end? Yes. And on that note, thank you, Carol, for joining. Thank you guys all for coming. It's been a pleasure. It's always fun to hang out. It's always fun to talk about toys. I will see you guys all again very, very soon. I'm stalling for time because I'm trying to get this stuff all lined up. As I said, if you guys enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. It is greatly appreciated. And if you want to get notifications for those videos as I post them, please hit that little bell and you will get your little notifications probably late. I always get my notifications late. I don't know about you guys. I will be trying to do open lates more regularly on Wednesday nights. I will say that right now. I do have, I will be opening the Super 7 Ultimates Mondo Gecko on Wednesday. But between now and then, there may be a couple other videos posted. So like I said, hit that notification button if you want to see those. On that note, yeah, go check out Brick Something's channel. He's gonna be on very, very soon. And until next time, thank you. Bye-bye. See you soon. Ish, hopefully.